From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
We know the problems of the neighborhood. We know the people of the neighborhood. We know what we need and what we want.
Now at 5:30, improving relationships between the Black community and local police. The steps one community center is taking to ultimately lead to a safer neighborhood. And a new children's book is out celebrating creativity and busy imaginations. We talked to the local author behind the book, Lindsay.
Topping our lineup, even though products like toilet paper are back in stock, we're still seeing big price hikes online on essentials. Just how much you could be overpaying. Zoos everywhere are seeing fewer visitors and in turn less income. How they're adapting and getting ready to welcome crowds when the pandemic is over. Many people don't want to return to the office, and some are even saying that they would rather quit than go back. How to have this talk with your boss that may convince them to let you keep working from home.
First at 5:30, building a stronger community. Tonight, the MLK Center in the heart of the Butler-Tarkington neighborhood in Indianapolis is already taking steps this new year to make that happen. As WRTV's Nicole Griffin is finding out, the focus will be on improving relationships with police, but also on giving community members opportunities to better their own lives.
Growing up in the Butler-Tarkington neighborhood,
I know a lot of people that done died in the neighborhood to gun violence.
Courageous Perry and Anthony McLeod have both experienced loss from violence and challenges that come from living in poverty.
For the past, I would say 5-6 years, it's been very dangerous within the city. The streets is not meant for nobody. These people don't have role models. And when I say people, my people, teenagers, kids, even adults, they don't have role models.
The two were introduced to the MLK Center as teenagers. Located at the corner of 40th and Illinois, the center is a place that provides education and support for local families.
It changed my life a lot. It gave me the opportunity to meet with a lot of mentors and different people that had an effect on me and talked a lot of knowledge into my head.
Using their grant from the Central Indiana Racial Equity Fund, the center has hired McLeod, Perry, and one other young man as junior community builders on their outreach team.
I have to do it because I'm one of the only ones that can. Actually make a change. They could have put anybody in this position, but would it matter if they can't do nothing for the community or don't know nothing about the community?
Part of their role will be to get out in the neighborhood to expand the center's reach, engage with the youth, and listen to them to find out how the center can better serve local families. Another goal will be improving their relationship with police officers.
So that they can get to know each other's names, know what's going on, understand how policing works, how it should improve.
For McLeod, his goals in this new role are simple.
I'm just here to save a life.
He hopes by connecting people to the center, a place that has improved his own life, he will be able to do that. Working for you, Nicole Griffin, WRTV.
The Central Indiana Racial Equity Fund was just established in June of 2020 by the Eli Lilly, the Lumina Foundation, and the Central Indiana Community Foundation. More than $2.2 million will go to advancing effective solutions to racial inequality in Indianapolis and the surrounding counties. Kyle.
Well, today, another one where we are locked into those clouds across central Indiana. Gray skies over Indianapolis, but we're getting close to sunset, so that means the city lights will soon be coming up here and brighten things a little bit for us. We've got 36 on the thermometer downtown, 35 for you in Kokomo, and 38 in Bloomington. Feels a little colder than that, though, because we've got this northeast breeze around 10 to 15 miles per hour, and that is going to continue for us here, even as we go into tonight. As we look at the satellite and radar, even though we've got the clouds, we are dry. We look down to the south, bigger storm system here. Actually, some winter weather advisories across portions of Tennessee. You can see some of these radar returns along the Ohio River, but there's a lot of dry air in place, so really not seeing that make it to the ground. As we check out TrueCast here through the overnight, we might see a couple of flurries around Bedford, Seymour. I think that would be about it. Most of us going to just stay cloudy and dry with those temperatures here as we go through the evening in the middle 30s. When will we finally see some sunshine? I'll answer that question coming up in a bit. Lindsay.
President Trump is blocked from reaching people on Facebook and Instagram. Mark Zuckerberg himself posting that the president's accounts will be blocked for at least the next 2 weeks. That takes us through the inauguration and ultimately the transfer of power. Zuckerberg says the context of what the president was posting is now fundamentally different, involving the platform to, quote, incite violent insurrection against a democratically elected government.
Yes, we could see this coming, and several researchers have been sounding the alarm that this sort of thing could happen for quite some time, especially given the increase in intensity of Trump's rhetoric surrounding the election.
Kurt Braddock studies extremist groups. He says he wasn't surprised by yesterday's attack, but like many Americans, he is shaken, he is heartbroken, and he is angry. Braddock believes the greatest damage from yesterday's events isn't to democracy, but that it provided ample photo ops for right-wing extremist groups.
I think that we're going to see in the immediate term and the medium term an increase in recruitment into these groups. There's quite a bit of chatter online from members of these groups that have seen this as a victory, despite the fact they didn't stop the overall electoral process.
Braddock believes in order to move forward, there needs to be immediate legal repercussions, not only for those who acted on the Capitol yesterday, but those involved in perpetuating disinformation that led to the incident. He also says there needs to be clear communication from the incoming administration that this sort of behavior won't stand, and we, as Americans, have a role too.
We need to become critical consumers of the communication that we engage in. That means we can't assume everything on Facebook is gospel. We can't assume everything on Twitter is absolute truth. We can't assume that our great aunt's forward via email is something that is indicative of something that's actually going on.
Braddock says extremist groups spread disinformation meant to exploit people and use them for their group's purposes. More help is on the way to D.C. More than 6,000 National Guard troops were activated from the Northeast. They will help secure the U.S. Capitol and surrounding areas. And they will stay on guard in the areas as support through at least the inauguration on the 20th. Next in our lineup, big price increases are still happening on essentials that you may be looking to buy online. What you should be watching for so you don't get ripped off, and the push to get stronger protections for all of us.
Weathertech.com and order today.
Welcome back. A new book created by 2 Butler University students is celebrating creativity and kids who think differently. Music in My Head is a new children's book written by Jen Mulzer, a student in Butler's creative writing program, and a mother. It just hit store shelves before the holidays, and WRTV's Lauren Casey caught up with Mulzer to talk about how her son was the inspiration behind this work.
I mean, it doesn't matter how many bedtime stories you read. I mean, he's still talking a mile a minute. It did come to light that, you know, he did have ADHD. I started off by writing his dreams and writing the stories that he gave me. And then from those stories, I started thinking about how he copes with things.
Mulzer looked for a fellow Butler Bulldog to illustrate this story, and she says it was fate meeting Abu Kinsey. He is studying psychology and art, and he himself uses art as a form of therapy and has a big imagination. Mulzer says the goal of the book is to show kids that even if they are different and struggle to focus in school, it's going to be okay.
Reminding kids that no matter where you are in a situation and how you feel, just push through it and you'll find something rewarding at the end, but also that it's temporary. The book covers that because there's a lot of joy and there's a lot of animation and there's a lot of dreams and him getting excited in all these different worlds and fantasy. And then there's a little bit of reality.
If you want to purchase Music in My Head, you can find it on Amazon and at Barnes & Noble.
Price gouging has been a concern throughout the pandemic. We're getting a new look at the large increases that are still happening. A report released today by the U.S. PIRG Education Fund examined 750 products from both Amazon and third-party sellers in 15 different categories. The consumer group looked at the price of the listing on December 1st of 2019 compared to December 1st of 2020. It found 409 listings saw price increases of more than 20%. 136 at least doubled in price.
Typical price increases that you can see can range anywhere from 10%, 15%, or staying relatively stable. So this number of increases is very large.
The products the analysis looks at include all of the items that you see on your screen, ranging from toilet paper to patio heaters. 36% of the toilet paper increased in price by at least 20%, and for patio heaters, 61% increased by at least 20%.
Amazon has responded saying that they have both automated and non-automated systems in place to detect price gouging on their sites. And we believe that they are doing a lot to combat price gouging. But being such a giant in the marketplace, we believe also that they have a responsibility to remove all of these listings or to send warning letters to these sellers.
Amazon tells U.S. Perg in part sellers set their own product prices in our store. We have a long-standing policy against price gouging, have processes in place to proactively block suspicious offers, and monitor our store 24/7 for violations. 37 states currently have laws that help authorities fight price gouging during national or state emergencies. U.S. Perg says having this law on a federal level would set a standard. It would also make it so price gougers could be prosecuted across state lines. Amazon says it has also advocated for a federal price gouging standard. Using a price tracking tool like Keepa is one way to make sure you're not being ripped off online. More in our lineup. Zoos are dealing with fewer visitors and less income. How they're adapting so they're still ready to welcome crowds when the pandemic is over.
Forecast on your time.
The FBI is asking for your help to identify people instigating violence at the U.S. Capitol yesterday. It says in a tweet it's accepting tips and digital media depicting rioting or violence in and around the Capitol. You can submit any information you have at fbi.gov/US Capitol. It's a different scene today on the ground, more than 24 hours after rioters entered the U.S. Capitol. Maya Rodriguez is on Capitol Hill with what that aftermath looks like today and the questions so many everyday people are asking.
It's much calmer on Capitol Hill after the unprecedented events that saw a mob storming the U.S. Capitol. Still, things are far from normal here. Officers from a number of D.C. area law enforcement agencies now surround the Capitol after rioters breached it during the Electoral College vote count. Additional fencing and barriers now going up around the building, which the U.S. Congress calls home.
My 87-year-old mom and my 14-year-old great-nephew, we were here and the girls were right up by the steps, and they saw the barriers get pushed down. Why are they putting up these big fences today after everybody's gone when they had basically sawhorses up there yesterday?
Just a few of the security questions now raised after rioters entered the Capitol with seemingly little pushback. What they witnessed now affecting some of those who traveled from out of state to the nation's capital for a rally with President Trump that preceded the violence at the Capitol.
Well, it was very disturbing. I was very troubled when I went to sleep. I just prayed out my heart until I felt I could go to sleep, and then I could go to sleep again. But I'm concerned for the nation.
Others are also concerned for their city.
Main area is blocked off, obviously, so probably just that side and then go from there, see how bad it is over there.
With garbage bag in hand, this D.C. resident said she just wanted to help clean up the mess still littered around the Capitol. From garbage to poles and more.
I handed off some of the poles to one of the Capitol cops earlier, so I'm hoping they'll let me get back to them to take to the back.
This as the security perimeter around the U.S. Capitol is tightened further, a place that plays host to the inaugurations of U.S. presidents, including the upcoming one for President-elect Joe Biden. Washington, D.C. remains under a state of public emergency for the next 2 weeks through Inauguration Day. That's the next major event here in the city and a potential test of the security lessons learned from what happened here. In Washington, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
Disappointing news for those who love the colorful purses and accessories from the Northeast Indiana company Vera Bradley. For the second year in a row, the huge annual outlet sale is canceled due to COVID-19. The sale was set for April. It attracts thousands from around the country to the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne. Those with tickets should see a refund within 30 days. The 2022 sale is set for May 4th through the 8th. Kyle?
Amanda, we could certainly use some brighter colors in our sky, but instead we just got that gray overcast that's been with us here for the last couple of days. We saw a few breaks of some sunshine late yesterday. Want to show you, this is the jet stream winds here. So higher up in the atmosphere, you can see those stronger winds really down along the Gulf of Mexico. So we're kind of carved out here. And what this really means for us is our weather isn't going to be changing all that much here as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend. Mostly cloudy skies for us tonight. tonight, those temperatures into the upper 20s, still going to be a little breezy, so that's going to give us wind chills a little closer to the 20-degree mark. Friday starts off with very little change here. We are going to have those clouds, but models are trying to indicate here as we get into the afternoon, we may see some breaks of sunshine. I think this might be a little optimistic on clearing out the skies, but at least some brighter conditions than what we've had throughout the day today. Clouds, though, temperatures will keep around 30 degrees here as we go to 11 a.m., lower 30s into the afternoon. So again, another seasonably chilly day as we'll top out in the middle 30s, 34 in Indy and Columbus, 31 for your high tomorrow afternoon in Lafayette. A little bit of a breeze, so again, we'll have those wind chills. But we look ahead to the weekend, there's the return of a little more sunshine for us. I think a little better chance than what we've got even coming our way tomorrow. Partly sunny skies on Saturday and Sunday, and we'll keep those highs in the 30s. Seems kind of like a wash, rinse, and repeat kind of forecast here as we go through the next several days. We've got those highs upper 30s through Tuesday, and then a little bit of a warming trend actually coming our way by the middle and end of next week with highs in the 40s. Lindsay?
2 more states are now dealing with cases of the new COVID-19 variant, Pennsylvania and Texas. The variant has already been found in New York, California, Colorado, and Florida. Public health officials in Pennsylvania say this latest case happened after international exposure. The patient had mild symptoms and has recovered. The patient in Texas had not recently traveled, so there are concerns that there could be community spread. This variant has infected at least 52 people in the U.S. It was first found in the U.K., and there's also another version of the virus that was first detected in South Africa. Doctors fear it could lessen the effectiveness of antibody treatments.
It is a little bit more complicated because some of those mutations might have a negative impact on the efficacy of some of the monoclonal antibodies that are used.
There are at least 21 million COVID infections in the U.S. right now. Well, some closed Sears stores are being converted to help with COVID vaccine distribution. These are some pictures a New Jersey leader tweeted showing a vaccination center in an old store there. There are also plans to do something similar at a location in Iowa. More money is on the way to states to help with COVID testing and vaccine distribution. The CDC is giving states more than $19 billion combined for testing and more than $3 billion for vaccine distribution. The amount of money that each state is getting is based on population. That money is supposed to be available before the 19th. It has been a struggle for some zoos and aquariums across the country as they've lost revenue due to restrictions on visitors during the pandemic. Dan Grossman shows us how at first there was concern about how long zoos could last, and now they're finding ways to adapt and still keep animals healthy and fed.
This was not the 125th year celebration this zoo had in mind.
Normally this path on a summer day would be filled with families and kids and, laughter.
Things are quiet, serene almost, if it wasn't for the fact that this stagnancy has led to challenges the Denver Zoo and spokesman Jake Cubier have not yet faced before.
Come hell or high water, we're going to take care of these animals, and that's really the creed of the AZA.
The AZA is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, the nonprofit that works with our country's 240 accredited zoos and aquariums. In it, there are more than 500,000 animals that need food and care each day and every day.
It's definitely been one of those things that makes you scratch your head a little bit like, what the heck's going on?
Take that elephant. Entering the frame behind zoo nutritionist Jason Williams' head. She eats around $76,000 worth of food each year.
There's certain things you can, jockey around and try to be more efficient at. But the primary care of the animals and the nutrition profiles and the diets of the animals have never been on the table.
It makes it a numbers game. Take Denver's situation. Each month, it costs $1 million to feed and care for its animals. But since the pandemic started, the zoo has either been closed or operating at limited capacity. That means its largest portion of income, visitors who make up 70% of revenue, have been missing. And it's been like that for each and every zoo across the country.
I think it's very safe to say that through everything that's happened in that time, this is probably the most challenging year in the zoo's history and in the industry's history, honestly.
It has meant cutting staff, some of whom have created bonds with these animals, choosing more cost-effective ingredients, and slashing educational programs and conservation efforts that make the zoo a bastion of experiential learning for adults and kids alike.
It's been a challenging time, but at the same time, I think it's really allowed us to focus in on the things that are very important and make sure that those things don't change.
Zoos with fewer than 300 employees will be eligible for part of the $284 billion in PPP loans included in the government's most recent stimulus package passed around the holidays, as well as $15 billion in grants, making this labor of love a little more manageable moving forward in this new year.
The zoo is such a special place because the circle of life continues here no matter what.
I'm Dan Grossman reporting.
Finally in our lineup, some say they'd rather quit their jobs than go back to working in the office. Some options to bring up to your boss that could help you continue to work remotely. As the vaccine rolls out, companies are making plans to return to work, but it's not sitting well with everyone. 29% of people surveyed by Live Careers say they would rather quit than return to the workplace. More than 60% want to continue working from home after the pandemic. Experts at Gartner HR Practice say companies are aware many people will want to continue working remotely, so they're likely to offer flexibility. But you should be aware that companies can still make it mandatory to come into the office.
And we're seeing that play out in a couple of industries in particular. So financial services, banking, some of those places, some of those companies at least, are saying that they expect all of their employees to be back in the workplace.
If you're not comfortable returning to work, talk to your manager and be transparent about why you're hesitant, especially if it's a health issue. If you can prove you're capable of being productive while working from home, it will help you in making your case. And also, be willing to compromise.
What you might be able to do is work with your manager to say, well, I want to work from home 4 days a week, but willing to come in 1 day a week or a couple of hours a week. But rather than thinking about it as fully remote or fully in the office, is there a way that you can meet halfway in between?
Identify the periods in which it's actually necessary to be in the office, like certain meetings or events. And also ask about expectations and if that will change if you return to the workplace.
I'm Chris Stewart on the road in Alpena, Michigan, which is about 4 hours from Detroit.
It is a isolated area. We're the most isolated hospital in the whole state.
Getting the coronavirus vaccine is proving to be a challenge no matter where you live. Tomorrow, we'll show you the extra effort it takes to make sure it gets to rural communities like this one.
Quite a few clouds and that chill in the air the next few days right through the upcoming weekend, although we will see the return of some sunshine here. Highs in the 30s there. A little bit of a warming trend as we get into next week. Maybe not on Monday, Tuesday, but hey, the 40s return for those afternoon highs by the middle and end of next week. Thanks for joining us here at 5:30.